Him answer, please.
First of all,
let him answer, please.
But all right. First of all, I'm not going to keep being talked over by this Islamist blowhard. Let me speak. First of all, your first guest treated us to the first bit of mouthwash this evening by claiming that the word jihad can mean absolutely anything. Nonsense.
There are debates, and then there are train wreck interviews on live TV. This session of Uncensored starts as a debate and ends as something closer to a fatal demolition. Two Muslim guests talking over each other's heads in the studio, a host, and then douglasmurray gets the mic. What follows is the kind of television breakdown that makes you wonder why anyone agrees to share a panel with this man in the first place.
October 7 happened and many things happened after. Are we here just stuck there as a snapshot and to discuss it, or we want to discuss what after and what can be done?
We do, but actually,
that's the most important.
I think they're all important issues, but right now, because of what happened and the fallout from last night's show, I specifically want to discuss the definition of terrorism, Hamas, and whether a British doctor...
But Hamas is not the Palestinian people.
Hang on.
But we haven't had an exact definition yet.
I'm going to bring in our third... I'm going to bring in douglasmurray. You're just sitting patiently here. Douglas, first of all, what was your reaction to this interview with an NHS doctor last night on this show?
Before Murray says a single word about October 7th, he does something far more surgical. He identifies who he's actually talking to. The guest from the previous night isn't just a random commentator with strong opinions. He's a verified member of Hizbah, an organization banned across multiple countries, including Muslim-majority nations like Pakistan and Egypt. Not banned by Western governments, banned by Muslim governments who looked at this ideology and said, "Not here."
Well, let me first of all say that it's necessary to clear quite a lot of things up, because we've heard quite a lot of hogwash in the last few minutes. Firstly, your guest last night is a member of an extremist organisation, Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is banned in many countries, including in European countries. And it's also banned in many Muslim countries. It's banned in Pakistan, it's banned in Egypt, and that's because these Muslim governments recognise that it is an extremist group that has a revolutionary ideology that wants to replace government in Muslim countries as well as in...
Murray's statement is the perfect opening move. And it works because it preempts the easiest deflection in any debate about Islamism, the accusation of anti-Muslim bias. You can't level that accusation at someone who's citing Cairo and Islamabad as his sources. Murray doesn't invent this criticism. He quotes it back from the countries that know this ideology best.
No, Germany.
One European country is banned in douglasmurray. I'm not going to let you lie to the audience like you usually do. You're going to justify everything you say on this show, douglasmurray. Right, so please give me one country.
Germany.
It's not banned in Germany.
I just said
it's not banned in Germany.
You're not listening. You're not listening. You're not listening.
To the audience. Google it for yourself. You know, Hizb ut-Tahrir Germany, really are they banned as an organisation?
Is this Mr. Al-Andalusi? Can I just check? Because I can't see you.
It is,
Is that him?
Notice how the guest interrupted immediately. Douglas got closer to exposing the system. The thing about interruptions is they only work if the other person stops. Murray doesn't seem to want to stop. Notice how he continues speaking with the measured calm of someone who has assembled every piece of this argument long before the cameras turned on, and has absolutely no intention of being derailed by noise. One thing you'll admire is his refusal to be bullied and tell it straight.
Okay. This is a guy, he's of no significance, but he's a guy who I have seen in studios for years spouting extreme Islamist rhetoric. Many years ago, he couldn't condemn the killing of the journalists at Charlie Hebdo. Last year, he wouldn't condemn the attempted murder of Salman Rushdie. Now he can't do this. He fails every single test. But let me get on to the question. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to engage in a fun fight with this Islamist. Let me answer the question that Piers put to me before you try to interrupt again.
Charlie Hebdo and Salman Rushdie are two separate incidents with two separate failures to condemn. You see, there's a meaningful difference between an opinion and a paper trail, and Murray is reading from the paper trail.
Him answer, please.
First of all,
let him answer, please.
But all right.
First of all, I'm not going to keep being talked over by this Islamist blowhard. Let me speak. First of all, your first guest treated us to the first bit of mouthwash this evening by claiming that the word jihad can mean absolutely anything. Nonsense. when a big bearded member of Hizb ut-Tahrir calls for jihad on the streets of London, then they are not calling for an interpersonal struggle with the nature of the divine. They are calling for violence. And anyone who can't recognise that should be questioned about their own motives. Secondly, we've just been treated to a monologue about casualty figures in Gaza. Where do these figures come from? I'll tell you where they come from. They come from Hamas. It's quite remarkable to me that 2 months after the October the 7th massacre, the Israelis still don't know the precise number of people murdered on October the 7th. There's a reason for that, because it takes time to work out massacres of that scale. One of the striking, you know, I just don't know if either of your guests are going to allow me a word in.
Because you are lying, and even the numbers from Israel, from the IDF, which are not accredited.
No. You will,
These are your
it's
numbers.
really interesting hearing somebody who presents themselves as a moderate being a spokesperson for Hamas. So let me continue. They are Hamas figures. They are all provided by the ministries of Hamas, which is a prescribed terrorist organization. If you want to reel off Hamas figures, then be my guest, but you are not able to mislead the viewers of Piers' show by quoting Hamas figures at his viewers as if they are holy
I am not
writ.
quoting.
Third,
it's the Euromed.
We've been treated to this nonsense.
United Nations.
We've been treated.
It's the international community organizations.
Where do you think they get the figures from? Where do you think they get the figures from? Thirdly,
remember the argument made earlier that jihad simply means an interpersonal spiritual struggle. That's the most bizarre definition ever heard in the history of definitions. Imagine this: when a large bearded member of Hizbah stands on a London street calling for jihad, nobody in that crowd is picturing a quiet self-reflection. Anyone who claims otherwise has either never been on that street or has reasons of their own for the confusion. We are always told it's only a tiny number of Muslims who are extremists, yet somehow none of them will ever criticize when an extremist commits an act of terror. That observation, shared by thousands watching this clip, is the shadow hanging over every exchange in this segment. Then comes the World War II comparison, and credit to Murray for doing the actual historical homework.
I will continue to speak if it kills you. Thirdly, World War II. It is nonsense that what has been happening in Gaza has, as you said in this endless list of fallacies, that there has been more bombing in Gaza, more deaths and destruction in Gaza than during World War II. Do you know anything about World War II?
Almost,
do you know anything about World War II?
In Dresden alone.
Do you know anything about Dresden alone? Take one German city. The destruction was on a scale totally dissimilar to what has been happening in Gaza.
I'm taking London.
I'm very interested. I'm very interested, and I will, once again, I will finish this point, even if both of these boy hearts keep trying to talk over me. I will finish.
The destruction of a single German city during WW2 dwarfs anything being compared to Gaza. This isn't callousness towards civilian suffering, it's calibration. When history is used as a moral measuring stick, the least you can do is measure accurately. And then, here's the moment everything else has been building toward.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you both. Let me ask Douglas one question. Douglas, specifically about the doctor.
It is very important for your viewers to hear the following definition. The definition of terrorism is the deliberate targeting of innocent civilians. That is what Hamas specializes in. That is what Hamas did
and that's
on
what
October
is happening
the 7th.
in Gaza
now,
also.
Is what Israel is doing terrorism? No, for the following reason. And again, you can lie about this if you want, but do not expect not to be challenged about it. What the IDF is doing is the same manner of war as the British Army, the American Army, and all other armies in the civilized world. They target terrorists like Hamas, and there are civilian casualties. Yes, there are. But it is not the aim of the IDF any more than it is of the British or American armies to target civilians. And anyone who pretends otherwise is lying to the public watching.
All right, Douglas, final question before...
12 words to answer a question that 20 minutes of the conversation couldn't. That's the thing that needed to be said plainly, on camera, in a room where saying it plainly was apparently the most radical act available. The framework is imperfect, the application is endlessly contested, but the principle itself is the bedrock of the Geneva Conventions. Murray didn't invent it, he simply applied it, and applying it is apparently enough to make the studio erupt.
Two in the studio here. And it's specifically about the doctor that was on last night, whether he should be allowed to continue practicing as a GP when he identifies Hamas as a resistance group, wouldn't say that it committed an act of terror, said he didn't even believe that there had been a massacre, and was also quite blatantly homophobic, amongst other things. Well, he didn't actually. Douglas...
But not Douglas.
He said believe.
Let me ask Douglas.
He said if.
No, please.
Let me ask Douglas.
Douglas, the medical association. The medical association.
I will come both to.
The medical association is the one who is assigned to.
Fine. I'm asking Douglas what his view is.
Douglas. He's not a medical doctor.
I'm asking Douglas's opinion. Douglas.
Well, you don't seem to be much of an impartial observer of this, I have to say myself. I thought slightly highly of you before you started ranting as much as Mr. Al-Andalusi this evening. I'll tell you what I thought of it, Piers. I think our country has had enough of people like your guest.
One thing we can say for sure is that Douglas knows some facts, and when to bring them up. Britain is in trouble. Looking at this segment, that statement is hard to argue with.
Not just that he's in the NHS. Why is he in Britain? Why do we allow people in Britain to try to overthrow the state who praise terrorism, members of extremist organizations? What has Britain got from this guy exactly? What benefit have we got from him? I mean, I wouldn't want to be an NHS patient going to him. I don't know if any Jews would particularly want to in Britain. I don't know if very many innocent people would want to go to this doctor. But my question is not just should he be able to practice. I want to know why our country of Britain has been such a soft touch for decades that we have Hamas leaders, terrorist spokespeople, Islamist sympathisers like your guest, Mr. Al-Andalusi, and now NHS doctors who are members of groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir that stand on the streets of London, call for jihad, call for Muslim armies to arise. I don't think our country benefits anything from these people. I think people like that should leave. We have no need of them.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because before Murray got on the floor, there was another conversation happening in that studio. And it tells you just as much.
As terrorist?
I do not consider Israel to be a terrorist organisation.
The killing of my daughters?
I think here's a question we have to ask ourselves, which is, since you have defended Israel's operation in Gaza as self-defence,
don't misquote me. Don't misquote me. I've defended.
So you don't say it's part of their self-defence?
No, let me clarify.
Okay.
I've defended Israel's right to defend itself. Right. In fact, they have a duty to its civilians after Hamas's repeated threats since October the 7th to repeat it to defend the civilians.
So is the war in Gaza not self-defence, or is it?
Let me just clarify my position so you know. Right.
Yeah.
However, I have repeatedly questioned the proportionality of Israel's response, as indeed their greatest allies.
But not the response itself.
Now doing.
But not the response itself, though.
I think they're perfectly entitled to go.
Piers opened by laying out his position clearly. He'll platform anyone, up to the point where they try to convince him that October 7th wasn't terrorism. That's his line. And it's a fair one, at least. What follows is a masterclass in the art of answering without answering. The question is simple, but answering it seems arduous. Is Hamas a terror organisation?
May I continue my question then?
Yes.
I'll ask you. So since, as I repeat, since you have justified their response, maybe not how they've carried it out exactly, but you justify their response as self-defence.
Their right to defend themselves by taking out the terrorists who committed that atrocity, yes.
Okay. And presumably you refuse to call Israel, and you have refused when you've been asked to call Israel a terrorist organisation, government, or the idea for terrorist organisation.
Well, the difference is here we are. Well, hang on. In London.
No. Let me finish my question, please. I have a question for you.
I must clarify.
Let me finish my question.
You're making some statements that are a bit misleading.
Sure.
This country considers Hamas to be a prescribed terror group. They do not consider Israel to be a terrorist organisation, and nor do I. So that's the position.
Notice how the guests present themselves as moderate voices of reason. If these are the moderates, it's genuinely worth asking what the non-moderates look like.
I'm not asking you.
The United States consider Bill
I'm not asking the British government. I'm asking you, Piers.
I don't think
the British government isn't here. Okay.
I do not think they're a terrorist organisation.
Now let me finish my question, if I can ask the question as well, right? For us to discuss. So, considering that you have justified the operation that Israel initiated as self-defense, and that you refuse to call Israel a terrorist organisation or a terrorist government, despite the fact that almost as many Palestinians, Gazans, have died under Israel's precision bombing than as Londoners have died during the whole year of the Blitz under German bombing, which wasn't precision bombing. And yet you still say that, well, Israel isn't a terrorist organization. I think the question we should be asking is, should you be suspended? Is it responsible to have a person with your views speaking to the public when you clearly refuse to condemn that which needs to be condemned, which was worse than the London Blitz? Those that
perfectly reasonable.
With precision weapons, and the Germans didn't even have precision.
He defends Israel's right to self-defense, then immediately questions the proportionality of the response, a position not without merit, but one that serves here as a way to stay technically agreeable while moving the goalposts sideways. As if that wasn't completely bollocks, he goes further, pressing Piers on whether he should even be allowed to platform the views he holds, given the civilian death toll comparisons being offered.
Question?
Yes.
And you've asked me it on my show?
Yes.
The fact you're here and able to ask that, I think, is evidence that I'm prepared to listen to people who will look me in the eye and ask me difficult questions.
Well, you didn't know I was going to say that, but anyway, yes.
That's fine, but that's fine. You're perfectly entitled to it.
Yeah.
We believe in uncensored free speech here.
Yeah.
But let me ask you the question then, which I asked.
You're not answering my question, but you haven't answered it.
Well, I have. I said I don't think they're a terrorist organisation.
Despite the fact that they've killed almost as many
you've asked me a question.
as Germans
You've
did
asked me a question.
when they bombed London under the Blitz for 1 year with non-precision bombs.
I have given you an unequivocal answer. Now let me ask you if you can give me one.
Yes.
Do you believe Hamas are a terror organisation?
Okay, and I'd like to ask you, what does that mean?
Just answer my question.
Well, I need clarification.
Well, this country has prescribed them as a terror group. Do you think they are?
Are you the British government?
No, I'm asking you what you think.
Okay, so I want a clarification.
I gave you a simple, straight answer.
What does it mean?
No, you tell me.
And here's the intellectual trap being laid. If civilian deaths define terrorism, and Israel has killed civilians, then Israel is a terrorist state. And the moment Piers asks the direct question, what follows is a demand for definitions, a redirect toward international bodies, a pivot toward what happens after October 7th, rather than the question of what October 7th was.
Asking me a question. You asked the question.
You don't think they are a terror group?
No, I want your definition of what is a terror group?
An act that commits acts of terror, a group that commits terror attacks, as they did on October the 7th.
So one that commits terror attack, all right, fine. So define terror.
Do you want to answer the question or not?
I do, but I just want clarification.
No. We all know what terrorism is.
Please, no. We're going to go somewhere with this. We're going to go somewhere with this, right?
Well, are you going to answer the question?
Yes, once I get your definition. What's a terror attack?
The definition is as is laid down in international law.
Which
it's
is?
Committing an act of terror.
Which is?
Which is terrorism.
Are you asking questions you don't know the definition of?
Well, why don't you tell me what you think it is?
I don't know. You're asking the question.
You've no idea what terrorism is.
No, I want you to answer your question.
I would say massacring 1,200 people on October the 7th in the way Hamas did is an act of terror. Do you agree?
So killing civilians is an act of terror?
No, that's not what I said.
So then killing civilians is not an act of terror?
Committing a massacre on that scale is terrorism.
So killing civilians is not an act of terror?
You're not going to answer. Let me bring in...
I want your definition.
No.
I want you to be consistent.
We have a third guest.
No, but I want
to
want to say something.
All right.
United States recognize PLO as a terrorist and it negotiates with PLO. This is one thing. The second...
Terrorists, it turns out, won't condemn terrorists. That's simple. And when you watch this segment knowing what's coming next, it plays out less like a debate and more like a setup. An eloquent, patient, slightly exhausting setup. Kindly hit share and drop your takes below.